Hi, in this video, I'm going to go over my experience with Evolve Artist Block 3 and how I went from this was my first assignment in Evolve Artist, and this was one of my last assignments just to show you the progression here. I'm going to be going over my thoughts on Evolve Artist, my pros, cons, things that I had difficulty while going through Evolve Artist. Also, I'll be going over whether or not I still think Evolve Artist is worth it after I've gone through Block 3, and then at the end, I'll do a walkthrough of all of the paintings that I did, so then you can see my progression. How long did Evolve Artist Block 3 take me? It took me around, I would say 12 weeks. I started doing the 12-week year and really just started to make it a habit in my everyday life, and that is when I saw the most progress. So I do have some videos on how I study art despite having a full-time job if you want to look at that. But really just having a plan in place is so important because it's really easy just to say, "Oh, I'm not going to do it today," and then a few months go by and you haven't really done anything. That happened to me several times between like block 2 and 3 and then block 1 to 2. And it's taken me a lot longer if I had just had that habit in place. So where shall I begin with my experience with Evolve Artist Block 3? I had a very difficult time figuring out this block along with different types of color. So probably the biggest thing is that the paint density is actually a lot different with color than it is in the black and white. And so that was the first one is I wasn't really sure how the paint density should be. And also I had taken a really long break between blocks 2 and 3. And so I had forgotten a little bit about the paint density. You can look at the end of the video and you can see like my gradients are really bad and there's just something off about them. And it's because my paint density was bad. I was like adding linseed oil when I didn't really need to be. And what really helped me with this is I got on a call with an instructor, and then the instructor was like, you don't really need to add linseed oil to color most of the times. And if you mix certain colors together, it can actually increase the thickness of some. So burnt umber with a little bit of maybe um Naples red or something like that would thicken it up. That leads me to like the gradients, like creating gradients. If you don't know what gradients are, you'll figure that out in block 1. But essentially, they weren't mixing well, and that was because of the paint density. Once I figured out the paint density in Evolve Artist, the gradients went much smoother, and color gradients are a lot easier than black and white gradients. I'm not really sure why that is. The way block 3 is broken down is it walks you step by step. So the first step is something like this, where you're only going to be blocking in like the colors, and then you're only going to be painting like the shadows in a black or a gray, what you're seeing here. And so you do about 10 of those, and then you move on to more gradients and then the colors and making like a shadow, the actual color. So let me see if I can find one. So here's one of my first ones with that. So as you can see, like the shadows have a little bit more color in them than they did before. Now, this is also when I was still struggling with paint density. As you can see, like the gradients are really bad. They don't flow together at all. And you'll do about 10 of these also. Here's another one of the same one that I did later on. And this is when I started to add highlights also. So that's like the third part of it is you start adding shadows. And as you can see, like my gradients have gotten much, much better. And then also it has the paint density. It's all one color. So I was pretty proud of this. And I made sure that I created like the same one right here. So then you could see the part right there. And then in case you're wondering, this is the first part of it. This is a little bit out of order, but basically, as you can see, this was actually really bad. I had a problem like putting on color a little bit. Yeah. So those are the three main parts. So you have where it's just the color, no gradients, and then the shadow is a grayscale. And then you move on to the gradients and creating the shadow and putting color into the shadow instead of just using the grayscale. And then you have this where you have the highlights and then the gradients and then the shadows have a little bit more color and realistic looking. And so those were the three phases to this. As you can see, I was getting a lot better. So here's this. And then you have this, which is just a huge difference within a 12-week period there. And so I think it really helped me grasp like color density and then putting down colors and things of that sort, because I was definitely having a really big difficulty. So I'm the person who Evolve Artist is created for, because you just do repetition and then you get feedback on each one of these. And so I found like the feedback was the most valuable part, because each one I did was almost like a lesson in itself. Like your shadow, the lightest shadow shouldn't be lighter than the darkest light. Now that is something that maybe I could have read in a book, but until I actually did it, I wouldn't have really known or seen the results of that and how it was not good. For instance, this is the one that I messed up with on the lights. This is a light, but the heel, which is supposed to be a shadow, is actually lighter than this, and that was absolutely wrong. So learning that was a great lesson in this. Another thing that I really struggled with and still am struggling with is proportional drawing and getting things accurate. So, for example, here is one that is just a really ugly one, completely not right proportionally, all over the place. Paint density is really bad. Sometimes you just have to do ugly ones to get to the good ones, essentially. Yeah, pretty bad, but proportional drawing is still hard for me, but I was getting better. So as you can see, nearing the end, I did this. And so my proportional drawing near the end was definitely improving. I was actually really proud of this one because it looked pretty accurate. I was like, wow, I'm getting better. And so what I'm doing before I move to Evolve Artist Block 4 is I'm going through the book Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain, this workbook right here, Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain. And I'm really just trying to get better at drawing proportionally about what I see, because it is a large part of it. And I think Evolve Artist doesn't give you all of the tools to learn really good proportional accurate drawing. The proportional drawing is good, but I think I need a little bit more remedial help because I have no art experience whatsoever. So just going through that to help myself with drawing. So overall, do I think that Evolve Artist is still worth it? The answer is absolutely yes. If you're curious or wondering if you should go through the program, you definitely should. This isn't sponsored. It's just based on my real live experience. And I never really thought I could ever paint anything like this right here. I'm just like, wow, I can actually do that. Yeah. So if you have no experience, this definitely is built for you, and it walks you through step by step on how you can get better at just basic skills like painting, applying paint density, gradients, and things like that. And then in block 4, you actually put all of this together to make very realistic art. So I'm going to definitely record that. I may do even more videos on that, just because that's like the most interesting part that people probably really want to see. And so, yeah, if you're curious, I would definitely sign up. I don't regret it. It is the best money that I think I have ever spent. I would pay twice, 3 times as much for this program. And now let's go into a walkthrough of my paintings. Subscribe if you want to join me on my journey of becoming a professional artist. And I'll see you then. Bye.